Wherever you are watching, welcome to the NAB AFL pre-season and rookie drafts. Matt Thompson with you alongside AFL.com.au reporters Callum Toomey and Nick Bowen. G'day, guys.
G'day, mate.
Thanks for being with us. Let's get straight into it, beginning with the pre-season draft over in just a few minutes. And of course, the headline news is Kurt Tippett. As expected, he goes to Sydney at pick 11. Starting at the top, we can see Brett Thornton from the Blues goes to the Giants. The Doggies passing, which was interesting. Down at pick 8, Fremantle get Jack Hanneth. He, of course, had been big time on the D's radar, Cal.
He has been. He's been up on Melbourne training camp in Darwin. They were pretty keen to get another ruckman onto their list, but Freo got him first. All
right, over the page now, and we can see that Dean Brogan has gone to the Giants, Nick. No surprise there after everything that they've gone through, just taking a look at Tippett they were.
No, that's right, Matty, and I think that obviously delisted him to have the option of trying to select him in the pre-season draft, but once they decided not to, he was always going to go back to the Giants.
All right, now the really interesting story is the number of passes in the pre-season draft, and this is strategic, isn't it?
Yeah, in simple terms, it's just about getting more flexibility on their list. Clubs are allowed to have 38 players and 6 rookies and variations of that. So that's what they're doing, and they're also a bit cheaper.
All right, now, obviously, Kurt Tippett is the top story out of the draft. He finally lands at the Sydney Swans. Won't be obviously playing for a while, Nick, but I guess for Kurt Tippett, relief today.
Yeah, it's an end of the saga, Matty, and what a saga it was. But it just, I think, again shows that the big boys tend to get to where they want to go to in the draft, even with the other clubs having the chance to pick them up.
What do you reckon, Cal? Is this the end of the saga, or are we going to hear more about Kurt Tippett? Now it'll all be about what he's going to do through his suspension and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe when he first lines up in the red and white, we'll see an end to it, but it's been a long one. It's been good to get into his club, and now it's all over, hopefully.
All right, now another good news story has a bit of a Sydney connection, but it involves the brother of Sydney superstar Adam Goodes, who is joining the Western Bulldogs. It's familiar territory for him. He actually works at the football club. This is a really great story at the age of 28.
It's a fantastic story, Matty, and he's done it the hard way. He's played the VFL with North Ballarat, part of all their premiership teams. I believe went up to the Northern Territory and played up there, and has now obviously come back to Williamstown, the Dogs affiliate, and done really well there and got a gig.
Yeah, great story. Now, one more to talk about from the pre-season draft. We should mention, by the way, that Goodes, that happened in the rookie draft, and we'll be getting more into the rookie draft in a moment. But Sam Colquhoun, there were big raps on him, and he's off to Port Adelaide.
Yeah, a lot of surprises when he didn't get picked in the national draft. He's a really good user of the ball off half-back and was great for South Australia in the championships. A lot of surprises, as I say, that he didn't get picked by club last month, but he gets his chance with Port Adelaide, and they'll be pretty keen on using him a lot next year.
All right, so they are some of the big news stories for you out of both drafts, the pre-season and the rookie draft. Now it's time to go club by club through the rookie draft for you and take a closer look at how your club fared. Of course, we begin with the Adelaide Crows, and they've picked up Kyle Hartigan, Cal, from Werribee in the VFL.
Yeah, and they really wanted another key defender, and they got one in Kyle. He's 194 centimetres, 93 kilograms, and he gives that extra depth in that department of the ground for the Crows.
All right, over the page, Nick, let's talk about the Brisbane Lions. Nick Hayes and Callum Bartlett. Bartlett redrafted, but Jordan Burke, you really wanted to have a chat about him?
Yes, he's the son of former Geelong captain Damien, and 193 centimetre key forward, and I think it's another part of the Lions looking for life after Jonathan Brown.
Yeah, and his own selection as well, so familiar territory.
That's right. He was born up in Brisbane when Damien was playing for the Bears, as they were back then, but he only played, I think, 22 games for the Bears, so wasn't eligible to be a father-son selection.
All right, to the Blues we turn now, and this is a fascinating story, isn't it? Jared Keisha, redrafted by the Blues after spending a year playing for Norwood in the SANFL. They've also picked up Andrew Collins again.
Yeah, he gets another chance, Jared, and he wasn't expecting to go to Carlton. There's been a few whispers that he'd be going to Port Adelaide, where he's been training, but he gets another chance there. Obviously, got a lot of confidence this year playing under Nathan Bassett at Norwood, where they won the premiership in the SNFL. 21-year-old, ready to play if he gets his chance.
All right, we were talking about strategy before, Nick, as we look at Collingwood's very full page there. Ben Hudson obviously is the name that stands out, but these blokes are going to be competing for spots.
They are. The Pies passed in the pre-season draft, so didn't take anyone else onto the senior list, and these guys are all going to be jockeying for 2 spots as nominated rookies, and Hudson obviously insurance for Jolly in case he has injury problems, but they've got Sam Dwyer, who as a midfielder has been starring for Port Melbourne for years, who looks a really likely prospect, and another interesting one, Jack Frost, a key defender. He's actually the elder brother of Sam, who's at the Giants.
All right, Cal, let's turn to the Bombers, and they're persisting with this bloke. Tell us just a little bit about him.
Yeah, well, he's contracted Ariel Stoltenberg and signed a contract mid-year, gets another chance. He got delisted to create a spot on their senior list. He's taken the blow of being delisted pretty well. Had a good pre-season so far, and I think we'll actually see giant strides from him next year. All
right, it'll be interesting to follow his progress. To the Dockers we turn, Nick.
Yes, they've taken Craig Moller is an interesting one, a New South Wales scholarship holder who's a ruckman. So when you look at, they're also picking up Jack Hanneth in the pre-season draft. It looks as though they're preparing for life after Aaron Sandilands. Another one, Matthew Taberner, who's a forward from the Murray Bushrangers.
All right, no picks for the Cats, so we go straight to the Gold Coast Suns. And Andrew Boston had been touted before the national draft as the #1 bloke in Queensland. Didn't get picked up there, but he's been picked up today.
Yes, he's taken before the draft essentially as a zone selection. Classy midfielder, so he should fit in well at the Suns. And they've also got Lee Osborne from Frankston, a mature age half-back who I believe is an electrician but won't be for much longer.
No, absolutely not. All right, also a zone selection in use for Greater Western Sydney, Cal.
Yeah, Zach Williams joins the club, New South Wales product, and they will be getting Joe Redfern as well. We've just confirmed off-air that a local product, another one, zone scholarship holder, Joe Redfern, will be joining the club later today. A bit of a hold-up with some paperwork, bit of a paperwork issue, Matty.
Bit of a paperwork drama. We always like a paperwork drama on draft day. Let's go to the Hawks now, Nick.
Jonathan Segler, the ex-Pies player, another ruckman. He's pretty skinny, so he may take a bit of time, but probably a perfect rookie. And from Ireland, an international rookie, Kieran Kilkenny.
All right, to Melbourne now, Cal. They missed out, obviously, on Jack Hanneth. Tell us who they have got.
Yeah, they got Nathan Stark. He's already been likened a little bit to his future teammate in Jack Viney in the way he had some grunt and some aggression to the midfield there. And then there's Mitchell Clisby as well, so a 22-year-old running half-back from the Sample, senior player, another one ready to roll.
Off to Arden Street we go, Nick, and some redraftings at North Melbourne, I guess, the story here.
Yeah, it's another case of, I think, this list management that we've been speaking of, Matty, that Ben Spate and Cameron Richardson off the senior list, but reclaimed as rookies and would certainly have every chance of getting elevations through the year. And a young guy, Tim McGuinness from Dandenong Stingrays.
Port Adelaide is next up, and as you can see, a couple of picks for them, Cal, including a ready-made midfielder.
Yeah, well, they were after another one, and they got one in Kay Mitchell. There's a bit of talk before the rookie draft that Collingwood were interested, and the 2012 Sandover medalist from Claremont, but Port Adelaide got in first, and I think it's a pretty good pick for them. All
right, now what about the Tigers? Resembling a recycling plant at the moment, I think it's fair to say, Nick?
They have, Matty, and when you consider that they're in free agency, they were very active as well. Ricky Pettard gets another go from Melbourne, which I think would be a great pick for them. Sam Lonergan's a ready-made sort of inside midfielder from Essendon, and obviously to give Ivan Marek a bit of support, the big O, Oren Stevenson from Geelong.
Taking a look at Ricky Pettard in action here, I'll tell you what, if you can take marks like that in Tigers colours, Tigers fans will be getting excited. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Richmond do in 2013 and exactly what their strategy is going to be. OK, the Sydney Swans are next. A very busy page for them as well. The family club, the Sydney Swans.
Yeah, stack of picks, and obviously the most interesting ones is Xavier Richards and Brandon Jack, the brothers of Kieran and Ted respectively, been training at the club for the last couple of weeks since being overlooked in the national draft. Xavier's a really interesting one, missed both drafts last year, came back to play as Sandringham Dragons as a defender and a 19-year-old and did pretty well, so he gets his chance.
All right, no picks for St Kilda, so we go now to the West Coast Eagles and a couple of picks for them, Callum Sinclair and also Jamie Bennell, who comes across obviously for Melbourne player.
Yeah, Sinclair's done it the hard way. Terrific story of perseverance for him. He played at Port Melbourne for a couple of years in the VFL, then moved to Subiaco to take a bit of a chance, and geez, it's worked out for him, Matty.
All right, let's talk about the Western Bulldogs to finish with. Obviously, we're talking about Brett Goods. That's the big story of the draft from the Western Bulldogs perspective.
Definitely, Matty. He's, as we've mentioned, he's gone the long way to his AFL career, but he's a really versatile big bloke who can run through half-back, run through the midfield, and be great to see him have a go at AFL level.
All right, just before we go, let's have a bit of a chat about the blokes who missed out. Nick, in terms of players who are already on lists, I think Brent Prismal, he had a couple of opportunities, didn't he, with Essendon, training there, training at Port Adelaide. It hasn't ended up at either club, obviously, Essendon letting him go. And Josh Toy's another interesting one as well.
I think it's a sign, Matty, of just how tough it is this year with the rookie picks having been cut back from 6 to 4, that there's just not that many picks out there, and some really good guys have missed out. Brent Prismal, Essendon were pretty keen to keep him, ultimately couldn't, and certainly there was interest from Port, from the Bulldogs, but he misses out. Josh Toy is a really interesting one. You know, I think he was one of the 17-year-old selections for the Gold Coast, but if he'd been in an open draft, many think he would have been a top 3 selection. So to see him gone after 2 years, his AFL career seemingly over, is a massive shock.
Yeah, that is really hard to believe, and of course his progress, we've been following it right through the entire draft process. His name constantly had been coming up. Cal, what about some of the kids? Dale Garlett is, I think, the big one. He'd been talked about as well in dispatches by a lot of clubs. Obviously, some of his off-field behaviour had led to questions being asked about him. Some of his photos, for example, on social media. I mean, it's hard to believe, but that's what the clubs are looking at these days.
It's all about character these days, Matty, and with these guys, they have to show that they've really got it to make it and stick in an AFL career. Dale's been training with the Bombers last week. I think he did impress there, but there's still a few questions over his character and whether he'd have the ability to stick to it. They didn't pick him. They took Will Hams instead, so he missed out on his chance. There's a couple of other significant names who missed out. Jason Pongracic, Matthew Haynes and Shannon Taylor as well. Some talent there who got overlooked. Maybe next year we'll be talking about them as Xavier Richard types, who's spent a year out of the system and come back and done it well.
Excellent. Callum, Nick, thank you so much for being with us. Well, we look forward to reading the boys' stuff online throughout the day. That is it for now, but the footy news, of course, will keep on coming here on afl.com.au right through the summer. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you very soon.